Hi, and welcome back. I'm Dennis Frechette, and today I'm going to be reposting one of the earliest videos, I think, when I started back in YouTube in 2009 or thereabouts. That video had pretty terrible video and even worse audio. This version is from 2016. It has a lot better video. The audio was still crap, but I was able to clean that up quite a bit, so hope you enjoy it.
When people think of cold chisels, these are the two types that usually come to mind. This is just a standard 1-inch cold chisel. Everybody has one of these. This is a Cape chisel. It's not quite as common anymore, but it's basically just a narrow cold chisel that's designed to work in a confined space like a keyway. You'll notice that the cutting edge is wider than the rest of the chisel, and that's to make sure that it doesn't get wedged into a tight space. In order to give the cutting edge some support, the other cross-section of the chisel is left quite wide. These are sturdy chisels that are designed to be used with pretty heavy hammers in order to remove a great deal of metal quickly. I use chisels that are quite a bit smaller than these for most of the work that I do. The one thing that most people don't understand anymore is that cold chisels are designed to carve metal the same way woodworking chisels carve wood. And just like a woodworker with his chisels, I have a lot of different chisels that do different jobs. This is the slotting chisel that I use to clear away material between drill holes in thin sheet metal. This is another type of slotting chisel, although most people do call it a slot punch, and it's used on very heavy metal. It's square-faced, like a punch, and just like the Cape chisel, the cutting edge is wider than the rest of the chisel, so it doesn't get wedged into the metal as you're driving it through. I also have a number of small chisels that are shaped exactly the same way as woodworking chisels. They have a single bevel and they're thin in cross section so I can get into tight spaces. The single bevel design allows me to pare away pretty fine shavings with the chisel lying just about flat on the surface. The most common way to use a regular cold chisel is to drive it directly into the surface to create a fracture line to cut metal. You only need to drive the cold chisel in about a third of the thickness of the metal, and that creates a fracture line that allows you to break the metal away very easily. Cold chisels get sharpened somewhere between a 50 to 60-degree angle. That is the total included angle, the angle of both faces that I'm representing here with my fingers, adds up to around 50 to 60 degrees. It doesn't matter whether you're making a single bevel or a double bevel chisel, the angle is measured from both faces. Most of my chisels are sharpened to 60 degrees, but I do have some very light chisels that are used on fine work, and they're sharpened closer to a 50-degree angle. I do the rough grinding on a power grinder, but I really like this hand cranked grinder for doing the final polish of the edge. Because I have control over the grinder, I can set the angle very accurately by resting the chisel right up against the grinding wheel without removing any material, and then I can start grinding to set that angle. I'm going to pick up a couple more of these grinders and set them up with sanding discs so I can work through a number of different grits without having to swap out the wheels. If I need the chisels to remove very fine shavings, I'll take the time to hone the edges the same way you would a woodworking chisel. This type of slot punch is used to shear the metal away between drill holes in heavy plate. They work best if the thickness of the punch is no more than half the diameter of the drill holes. You don't need to remove a lot of metal here, you just want to create an opening so that a chisel can get the rest of the metal out of the hole. Using the punch is pretty straightforward. You just set it right on top of the metal that you're trying to remove, and then you just drive it through with a heavy hammer. And then it's just a matter of using regular cold chisels to cut away the rest of the material. Normally, I would hold the piece vertically in the vise and work across the jaws, but I was trying to set it up so you could see what I was doing. This is basically the same technique as cleaning up a through mortise in woodworking. You start from one side, work roughly halfway down, flip the piece over, and then work from the other side. You may have noticed that this is not the same piece of metal that I used to demonstrate the slot punch. That's because the camera wasn't on when I was doing that process and I had to redo it. But the drill holes were set up exactly the same way, and as close as I can get it, the material that was between the drill holes was exactly the same dimension. Here you can see the amount of material that I'm able to move with these chisels. Once you get the chisels tuned up and you get used to thinking about this as just being another piece of wood, it goes pretty quickly. It's certainly a lot faster than filing all this stuff away. Here you can see how these smaller chisels easily fit inside this hole to clean up the rest of the material to a point where it really doesn't need any filing at all. Here I'm just using a narrow chisel to cut a shallow groove in the surface of the plate. You can use the same process to cut a keyway. I would normally drill out a series of holes and then remove the metal with the chisel, but I just wanted to demonstrate that it's sometimes just as easy to cut away the metal directly. Here's another application where a cold chisel is quicker than a file. I've laid out this groove with a couple of hacksaw cuts. Now I'm going to use the cold chisel to remove the remaining metal.
So that basically covers all of the cold chisels that I use in my shop. We'll see you next time.